I visited a game store today. It's called Lancelot Games. It's out in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Where's that? Well, it's here. It's there. It's there. It's move over. That's Nova Scotia. It's about an hour drive from Halifax, which is a large thing in Nova Scotia, and it's way, way, way out there as we zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. To get there, well, you can't. And it was a great little store. It was a lovely experience. They had, oh, they might have some pictures here. Let's see. Yeah, there's what kind of looks like their upstairs area where they can have some tables out, and then they had downstairs a bunch of games and a bunch of shelves, and the selection was really nice. But because I am cheap, I was looking at the prices, and so I obviously like sort of comparison shop and comparison price between my local store in Toronto, a much more populated place, more economy of scale, more deals, and I still felt the pull to want to support this store. So I picked up a copy of Canvas Reflections. It's the expansion to Canvas. Renee has been enjoying Canvas. I've heard that this adds in a bunch of a little bit more depth of complexity than the base game. The base game is sort of a very simple drafting game, and this adds like a little level of complexity. Because I was looking at the Canvas big box a little bit ago, and I thought, nah, I can just pick up the retail editions on my own. I don't need the extra stuff. But I'm also a person who is cheap and very budget conscious, and is always wanting you, the consumer, to get the best price possible. And so it made me think of this question, the idea of what do we owe our friendly local game stores? Do we owe our friendly local game stores anything? And is it our job as hobby board gamers to support that? So I wanted to make a table talk video about it. A trademark video series that I won from Rodney Smith in a back alley game of Bounce Off, where I share my thoughts about a topic and then ask for you all to share your thoughts in the comments below. And then I'll make a follow-up video a couple weeks down the line so that we can all participate in the conversation. Again, a phrase that I came up with entirely on my own. And so this topic has to do with game stores and with buying online versus purchasing something from a store. Because I know this is even more prevalent in the States. You can get deals at Target. Board games are starting to hit the shelves at Target. That sort of wide mass retail appeal, which I think is fantastic. In Amazon, you can get a lot of games for a similar price. Some of these may be from the real sellers and the real designers, and some might not be. Some might be counterfeit. Or if you're ordering from Temu, then everything is counterfeit. You could still get a decent knockoff, though, if you are just concerned about price only. And so as somebody who is so cheap and is in sort of like the lower income bracket, but who also wants to engage in this hobby with a veracity, and that's sort of what the core tenets of Room and Board is all about, is saving you, the consumer, money. I still wanted to virtue signal to you all that I purchased a game today. No, I wanted to bring this up as a conversation and see why we might support our friendly local game stores, or why we might buy from publishers directly, or why we might choose not to buy counterfeit board games, or why we might choose to buy counterfeit board games, even if we know that they're counterfeit, and bring that up for discussion and conversation. And so let me start off by saying we're going to use Lancelot as an example, but I thought that their prices, considering where they were in rural Nova Scotia, were actually pretty good and pretty decent. I understand that they have to charge, you know, $5 to $20 more, it seemed, from 401 Games, which is what I usually use as my touchstone in Canada. I think that's generally the best deal that you can get in Canada. That and Board Game Bliss, those are kind of the two bigger ones in Canada, at least that I'm aware of. But I know that they have like a smaller location. They have probably more costs in terms of getting it to them, and they probably have significant overhead, especially because it's run by like a board game enthusiast who just wants to unpack all the games anyway for himself and play them all, and has to deal with such restraint in owning a small store that he should be commended. But I've been to rural stores before, and things haven't gotten me to pull the trigger. Really, they haven't. And what really convinced me to do it was I could see the little remnants of community being formed there. The second floor, there was a game space, right? There were a couple tables set up there. It was where all the Warhammer stuff was, where all the minis were. And there was a few tables set up there, and then the downstairs was just like a house that's sort of been refurbished into a store. And so the downstairs was where you had the stock, essentially. But he also had a couple Flesh and Bone nights, Flesh and Bone gatherings every Sunday, and Magic Night every Thursday. And while I understand those nights are generally there to drum up business and to get you to purchase packs and to do a little draft and play a game in the moment, they're also sort of focused around building that community. And I just love this hobby so much. And I recognize, especially through doing this and especially through seeing shipping and talking about group buys, that I'm very fortunate currently to be in Toronto, where there are a lot of people. It's easy for me to sell games. It's easy for me to get games secondhand. There's a larger community because of the amount of people that are there. And thinking about not living in Toronto is a little bit of a scary thought for me because of that and lacking access to that community. And so when I saw Canvas on sale Reflections for like $35, I cross-checked it with 401 Games and they had it for 32. I thought, wow, this seems like the perfect thing for me to purchase. Yes, I'm going to just get it. Go ahead, purchase it, especially because Renee enjoys the game and I could justify it in that way. It's an expansion, so I'm likely not going to get a copy of it for review, especially because it's a little bit older, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that really made me pull the trigger is that idea of game stores being not just a store, but a way to foster community and to foster an environment at which to play games and to create community and to even more build relationships, which I think is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, conversely to this idea, though, so many people who are entrenched in the hobby or like deeply entrenched in the hobby don't go to board game cafes. I am also one of those people. I don't go to board game cafes because I have a collection, a deep collection at my house, and the cost for attending one of these board game cafes just to have a space and access to a library, for that cost, I could purchase food and drinks for my friends and potentially a new game for myself, right? That we could all partake and all enjoy in the comfort of me not having to leave my little troll cave. And there are other stores that I've stumbled upon in rural places where I found the markup to be too big. They're readily on shipping routes, so to speak. They're close or closer to board game stores that would probably give you free shipping if you hit a certain threshold. And I have made that decision that the price sort of outweighs me wanting to support, because we always have that idea to sort of put the shoe on the other foot. There's always that idea that we put forward, hey, you should support your friendly local game store. Hey, don't buy from Amazon. Don't buy from the big box stores, and don't just give money to big box stores and invest local. But I think the trend and why big box stores and Amazon and gargantuan corporations have succeeded in growing larger and larger and wiping out game stores and wiping out competition is because there isn't enough of a focus or enough of a reason to spend the extra money. Like, if times are tough, grocery bills are getting higher, people are struggling to make ends meet, and if they just want to get themselves a present or get something for a friend, and that thing happens to be a board game. And this doesn't just apply to board games, like we see this happening in the world, right? Like, that's why giant corporations are everywhere, and small mom and pop shops are consistently run out of business because they just can't compete with the price and the threshold and the expenses that are required to go into running something insular on your own when you're competing with like a gargantuan corporation. Like, that's just the fact of the world, and we all participate in it. I know you do. Like, we all have gotten things on Amazon. We all have shopped at Walmart. We all have purchased from the larger grocery chains instead of the smaller independent chains. We all do it because of that convenience factor, right? Because lives are long and tough and arduous, and sometimes you just need to cut corners and get a deal wherever you can. And so then the question becomes, what falls upon the consumer to support? Are friendly local game stores inherently deserving of our support versus purchasing it for $20 cheaper on Amazon? And for all of you board game addicts out there, which I think is pretty much every member of this audience, like, you only find room and board if you're a board game addict. If not, then you know the Dice Tower. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a little bit niche down. I'm more deeper entrenched in the hobby, and I know this. And so I feel like all of you are the target audience for this question, that if you are spending constantly on these games, where do you cut the corners? And if you don't cut the corners, do you have that extra $20 to spend on every single game, or $10, or whatever the margin or the uptick in the margin is? And why? Why do you like to support local? Why don't you support local? It could be that shipping is expensive to get to where you are, and only the larger companies with a larger infrastructure can make it to your region. And where do you draw the line as well? So Temu sponsored the channel for a one-off on a crowdfunding countdown, and they sent me a bunch of stuff, and I got a couple board games because I figured that they were counterfeit, and I compared them against the components of the real board games, like the Crew and Avalon, because my neighbor had the Crew, not my friend, my neighbor. And I had like 3 copies of Avalon, and you could tell the difference if they were side by side, but if they were not side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Again, these things are being manufactured probably in similar factories using similar card stock or whatever. And so where does that line get drawn? If you are okay shorting out a friendly local game store and only purchasing off Amazon, supporting bigger corporations, well, what happens if you get a counterfeit copy and the publisher doesn't make money, but somebody else makes money off of this intellectual property or this counterfeit? Well, when does it become okay to do that for publishers? Do we draw that line? I think those are 2 very different questions, right? And I certainly think that, like, the distance between friendly local game store and like just a different game store versus clear counterfeit on Temu. Although, hey, I don't care about that counterfeiting, so to speak, when they're basically blatantly selling the Amazon Basics stuff without the Amazon Basics tag on it for 50% less. Sure, give me a long cord. I will pay $2 for it instead of $5. I would love those savings, right? And so it just comes down to the question of, how do we choose to spend our money, and how do we support publishers or not? In that sense, too, purchasing direct from Kickstarter or direct from pre-order is often more beneficial in support of those publishers. And do we owe the publishers more than we owe the ones who distribute them? Do we owe the publishers who create this game? Is our allegiance to them, or is our allegiance to the store that stocks game upon game, shelf upon shelf of wonderful experiences that we can go in and peruse in a way that the internet doesn't allow us to peruse? It had been a while since I'd been in a physical game store because I spent so much time on YouTube and so much time perusing Kickstarter, that being in this small place that was so clearly curated filled me with such joy. It was a nice day trip to Lunenburg. We went out, we had some food, but like, going in this game store and seeing this game store and seeing the possibility of this game store and the possibility of this community that was about to be created was legitimately the best part of my day. It really was, because I love games so much, right? And I love the community that is created around it. I love meeting people and making new friends who are as obsessed with this thing as I am, or who are interested in my special interest and want to learn and unpack and discover these things and are open to that discovery. And I was so thrilled by that feeling that I couldn't not walk away with something. I was going to buy something in that store. I didn't know what it was, but I was buying something. It could have been Nemesis. It could have been Dune War for Arrakis. It could have been Dune Imperium Uprising. It could have been anything that they had there. And then I saw Canvas Reflections, and I was like, great, I can justify this one a little bit more. But it was lovely. I was in there with Renee and her folks, and I was looking at the shelves, and I saw Clank Legacy, the Acquisitions Incorporated, which I know is an awesome legacy game. I've heard it from a bunch of people. And so I said that to Renee. I was like, "Oh yeah, did you know that there's Clank?" I was like, "Ooh, Clank Legacy. That's a really good one," because she likes Clank as well. I'm like, "I've heard that's really good," and she went, "Oh, cool. I didn't know that there was a Legacy." And then this couple that was in there, uh, they were like, "Oh yeah, you know what? I think it's like our favorite Legacy as well." Like they were just shopping. We didn't know them, but they were so excited to share that Legacy experience and to connect with people who are looking on the shelves and to connect about that experience. And that just sort of reinforced that idea of community and what a game store could bring and what I like to support. It's part of the reason why I've really started enjoying conventions and like game playing conventions, because it's just about the community. It's not about buying things, it's just about playing. And I think if there hadn't been a space up top where they offered room to play, and it was just a small space, like it probably could fit. Well, I think we saw on the Google Maps, you could fit maybe 5 tables up in there, right? But for Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, population, I don't know, what is it, 30,000? In 2016, it was 2,263. In 2024, it's 25,000. Hey, I was pretty close. 26,000. I did win a gold medal for estimation math as a kid. But yeah, it just got me thinking about this topic, and I wanted to share my thoughts to all of you all, to all this wonderful community that we all sort of create together through the comments, through liking and subscribing. No, just like through hanging out, right? There's something funny about YouTube. Like, you can create relationships through this. I know some people will be like, oh, it's a parasocial relationship, but like the people who like watch the channel, I have yet to meet somebody who like watches this channel who I don't vibe with, you know, like who I couldn't sit down with, play a game with, and have like a really good time. It has yet to happen. And I think that is sort of a testament to like the community that maybe we crave, because we know that, well, that board gaming, other than solo gaming, but board gaming is that sort of community sport. Maybe it's because we're all big old nerds, and so we have that sensation inside of us. Or maybe it's because, you know, board gaming is about that community aspect, which I think was probably the number one, the first thing I said, but who can tell anymore? I know I'm very appreciative of the community here, the room and board community. I'm appreciative of you all. And I want to get your thoughts on the matter. What do we owe? Do we have a responsibility to spend money on the things that we like? Are we okay letting others take on that responsibility? And how would we feel if it just went away? Because I think if we don't invest in the things that we like to see, those things will stop to will stop existing. Like I've seen that in countless theaters, you know, as theater slowly dies a horrible death and all the good theater actors transition to YouTube. Right, the convenience really outweighs a lot, and I think there has to be some sort of inherent value, additional value provided to get people to spend money on a thing. And so I wonder, what is that value for you all? So drop your comments down below and I'll compile them, I'll read through them and sort of curate them and summarize them in a follow-up video, because I think it's really interesting to hear from all of you who are just as passionate about this hobby as I am. Whatever your income bracket is, I'm sure you have some thoughts on the matter. If you got lots of money, you probably don't worry about it. There's a game store in your town, go get all the games, baby. But if you don't have a lot of money too, like maybe that does make a difference. It certainly does make a difference for me, and certainly has in the past, for sure. Like during COVID, part of the reason I started this channel is that during COVID, I was watching all these YouTubers be like, yes, get every single game. And I was like, are you kidding me? Who's got the money for that? I can get one. I can get one thing. And so with COVID sort of being past and work being a little bit better for me now, and well, me having, you know, consistently 3 jobs, that sort of flexibility, or that flexibility is sort of allowed for me to contemplate spending more and to be able to support things that I love. And I think that's really cool. But I also really resonate with all sides of it. And I've been into some stores which I didn't support nor would support because there were other things that I could support. They didn't give me a reason to, right? That's sort of a weird transactional way at looking at the world, or at least to speak about it, because I think it's something that we do consistently just in our day-to-day lives in every aspect, because that's what capitalism does to us. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. Please share your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks everybody for hanging out. I love you all. Share this around if you think it will help promote additional discussion, because I'd like there to be a lot of discussion about this topic, and maybe it'll be helpful for any friendly game stores out there, or people thinking about starting up a service. Think about the needs of their audience and how they can earn people's support. Thanks for being here. I don't have a catchphrase. This video is probably too long, but I appreciate it anyway.